The rules are changing. In order to work in Singapore, foreigners must earn more to qualify for employment and S passes.
More jobs made available for locals. Over 6,300 opportunities in the manufacturing sector, most of them for PMETs.
Under scrutiny for this Dr. Obama photograph and more, we have the latest on the controversy surrounding the Bellagraph Nova group and its Singaporean founders.
Hello, welcome to The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay.
And I'm Haryanto Diman. Now you can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. The Manpower Ministry today announced it's raising the minimum salaries for employment pass and S pass holders. Well, the reason, job market conditions have changed due to the COVID-19 crisis, and it's all the more important that employers give fair treatment to Singaporeans.
Well, currently, EP holders must earn a fixed monthly salary of at least $3,900, while S-Pass holders must earn at least $2,400. The salary criteria for both passes were last raised earlier this year. More details of the changes will be given soon. Now, it comes amid growing concerns about competition between Singaporeans and foreigners in a job market that has weakened in recent months.
On the upside, there are companies still hiring. More than 6,300 jobs, attachments and training opportunities are on offer from nearly 1,000 companies in the manufacturing sector for local job seekers.
According to MOM, about 4 in 5 of these roles are for PMETs, while multimedia journalist Chiao Suan pays a visit to one company that's increasing its workforce.
From diagnosis to treatment and research, biomedical innovation remains key in ensuring progress and good health in society today. But more than what it does for the consumer, the biomedical sector also injects good health and nourishment into our economy, particularly in times like this. We are here today at one of the industry's leading companies, Becton Dickinson, which hires about 1,400 members of staff here in Singapore and has injected considerable investment into the industry in its past 31 years here. Over the next 4 years, the company plans to invest at least $132 million and create over 300 local jobs. Today, biomedical companies in Singapore employ over 25,000 people and continue to hire.
Notwithstanding the quarterly fluctuation, the biomed manufacturing cluster expanded 27% year-on-year just in the first half of 2020. But we know that there's some volatility in these numbers, but the long-term trend for the biomed sector is positive, and we are also very buoyant about the prospect in this sector.
And things continue to look up for the industry. About 1,300 jobs are expected to be created in the next 3 to 5 years. Under the SG United Jobs and Skills Program for biomedical manufacturing sector alone, there are about 400 available jobs, including roles such as microbiologists and chemists.
In the economy today, there remain opportunities, and we need to actively pursue them. And at the same time, we also need to prepare ourselves for the way our sectors and our economy is going to make a transition coming out of the COVID-19 situation. And for all of those reasons, we have to invest in the training of our people and the capabilities of our businesses.
And even more help is coming for those seeking to enter this industry. Manpower Minister Josephine Teo announced a new professional conversion program for advanced biopharmaceutical manufacturing professionals and executives today.
The sector has been very resilient. The sector, even though is constantly under international competitive pressure, has proven itself capable of adaptation, capable of transformation, and always still reinventing itself. And that's, I think, a good way for people who are seeking careers to think about, how they can grow a career path and a longer trajectory.
With the biomedical sector being one of the few bright spots in this downturn, it remains to be seen how much of an impact it will have on resuscitating the economy here in Singapore.
Securing jobs for Singaporeans is at the top of the government's agenda for the new session of Parliament. Several more ministries today announced their priorities and plans.
The Trade, Manpower and Communications and Information Ministries, as well as the Monetary Authority of Singapore and National Research Foundation in the Prime Minister's office, released their addenda to the President's address. They will prioritise helping workers stay in jobs through the COVID-19 crisis, helping industries to transform and remain relevant beyond the pandemic, strengthening Singapore's connectivity and hub status, as well as investing in technology and helping businesses seize new opportunities for growth.
Let's bring in senior political correspondent Grace Ho to further discuss today's addenda. Grace, welcome to the show. Grace, the EP salary threshold was just raised in May for new applicants, while the minimum salary for S-Pass holders was raised in January. It's only been a few months since the last changes. So what factors do you think spurred these latest changes to the salary thresholds for both EP and S-Pass holders?
Well, earlier in March this year, when the MOM's budget was being debated, Minister Josephine Teo said that the increases are in line with rising wages of fresh graduates from local universities. But just a few months down the road, we've had a pandemic that caused massive unemployment all across the world. And in addition to traineeships and internships and attachments, there also has to be some structural tweaks in foreign manpower policy if we are to create more jobs for Singaporeans and to nudge companies towards hiring more locals in the long term. So as Ms. Teo has said, the pandemic caused massive economic disruption. It's produced slack in the labour market, and that's why the latest measure is needed. But there are no details yet. All that's really clear today is that the ministry wants to see businesses commit to strengthening their Singaporean core. There's also a second part to this, which is that it wants them to diversify the nationalities among the EP and S-Pass holders that they employ. And some of this is also because of last month's announcement. I think that there was some public furor over how more employers have been added to the Fair Consideration Framework watch list for potentially discriminatory hiring practices.
Manpower Minister Josephine Teo also said the move to raise the minimum salaries is to ensure employers give fair treatment to Singaporeans. Does this mean, though, that companies will hire more Singaporeans instead, especially for positions which are often filled by foreigners, Grace?
Well, raising the salary bar does help to some extent in ensuring a more level playing field for your experienced local mid-career PMETs. So, for instance, if you have an older, more experienced foreign PMET, he would have to earn almost double the minimum salary of 3,900 under the current EP requirements. And now, if that goes up further, it gives employers some pause when they are considering whether to hire a foreigner or a local of equivalent wages. That plus the fact that one doesn't have to jump through the additional administrative hoops for an EP holder. For example, your immigration procedures, having to renew the pass once the contract is up, and so on. But that's the regulatory side of things. So it still very much depends on whether companies are committed to building up the Singaporean core. And sometimes there's a bit of inertia. So people have said that, for instance, in the back office operations of financial institutions, once they have a certain number of people of a certain nationality, this then in turn tends to attract more of the same kind of foreign workers. So that's where moral suasion is very important. MAS, the central bank, for instance, has said that it will continue to actively engage financial institutions on their hiring practices.
Right. On that note, even if companies pivot to hire Singaporeans with this change, it does not necessarily mean that Singaporeans want to take up these jobs. Now, in other words, this change affects foreign employment, but does not in any way spur local employment. Do you think then more can be done to spur local employment to fill up the jobs, which would supposedly be left vacant when the changes kick in?
There is a mismatch sometimes in job scope and salary expectations, especially for mid-career workers. Some job seekers may not even have thought about these industries now that they could go into, or they might feel that the level of salary is not quite what we're looking for. So, for instance, if you have heavy family commitments, you may wonder if a low-paying traineeship is enough to keep your family afloat for several months. Or let's say if the pandemic blows over, then if you have a low-paying job on your CV, that might make future employers lowball your future salary. But for these Singaporeans, the message from the government has been to stay open, step out of your comfort zone, and consider these new opportunities, because they could very well be the industry that you pivot to permanently. Companies have also been exhorted to change their hiring practices and to redesign jobs. But there's no easy answer, and there's still a good chance that thousands of workers will end up involuntarily unemployed, perhaps for long periods, depending on how COVID-19 pans out.
Right. Well, changing the subject, Grace, the Ministry of Trade and Industry's addendum today pointed to a major move that Singapore needs to undertake, that is to bolster its connectivity as well as its status as a hub. Well, the COVID-19 crisis has definitely upended life as we know it. So what would this hub status look like then in this new normal?
Well, yeah, so that's the interesting thing about MTI's plan in particular, is that it's not just about saving jobs and preserving a Singapore core, which has really been the focus in the public discourse, but it's also about the need to strike a balance. Because if you think about it, keeping Singapore's borders and as well as its own approach to business and talent open and welcoming is key to creating job opportunities. So the two things are not mutually exclusive. And so the Trade and Industry Minister, Chan Chun Sing, has said that his ministry will strengthen links with the world for markets, supplies, technology, and talent. It will keep trade routes open, ensure the continued flow of goods between countries. And it will also continue to sign digital economy agreements to boost trade in the digital economy. Now, all of this openness and improved connectivity makes a lot of business sense, because if you have technology companies, they will have more confidence in basing their global platforms and digital services from Singapore. Singapore could also be a hub for logistics firms that are looking to diversify their supply chains so that they're not affected so badly the next time COVID-19 or something similar happens. And if we stay open to talent and businesses that want to anchor themselves here, then Singapore could see a potentially more vibrant ecosystem of R&D laboratory, deep tech startups, accelerators and incubators.
Right. Great insights there, Grace. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. We're speaking to senior political correspondent Grace Ho.
On to the latest COVID-19 figures in Singapore. 60 new cases were confirmed today, taking their total count to around 56,500.
3 were community cases comprising 1 Singaporean and 2 work pass holders. There were also 10 imported cases. Now more details will be released tonight.
In other Singapore news, from this Saturday, August 29th, travellers arriving from South Korea must serve a 14-day stay-home notice at dedicated facilities instead of their own homes. The change comes as South Korea reports a resurgence in the number of COVID-19 cases. The country was previously considered low risk.
Check out these queues at a makeshift tent in Jurong East this morning, where passengers flying to China had to take a COVID-19 test. It was a last-minute arrangement after the Chinese embassy here announced that from this Friday, all travellers from Singapore to China have to be tested within 5 days before their flight and issued with a certified health declaration form. One passenger told the Straits Times that he will ask his employer to help pay for the $186 test as he couldn't afford it.
Gojek's General Manager Lien Chung Luen said today that he intends to contest the Singapore Athletics elections set to take place next month. He will lead a slate of 9 people called Team Ground Up, which pledges to restore cohesion and build strong ties across the athletics community in Singapore. Now, Singapore Athletics has been beset by controversy over the last 5 years because of legal letters, leaked WhatsApp chats revealing plots against coaches, and high-profile disputes between leading athletes. Mr. Lien said that if voted in, his priority would be to resolve all outstanding legal issues that have affected the association, with improving transparency and accountability also high on his agenda. The current SA President, Tang Wengfei, will not stand for re-election. Now, Haryanto, I think you and I would have seen this doctored picture along with most of our viewers. Let's have a look right now at this picture that I'm talking about. It, of course, shows the co-founders of the Singapore-based Bellagraph Nova Group, or BN Group. Now, the photo was edited to look like they're posing with former US President Barack Obama in an office in Paris.
Here's the latest in this developing story. Exington, a catalyst-listed company linked to the BN Group, requested for trading halt before the stock market opening today, pending an announcement. Now, overnight, the ex-US ambassador to Singapore, Kurt Wagger, told the Straits Times that he resigned from his independent director position in Exington.
Exington is also due to respond to the call by the Singapore Exchange's regulatory arm that investigation should be taken on the suitability of its professional advisory services firm's board of directors. Now, the three co-founders of the BN Group are Singaporean cousins Nelson and Terence Low and Chinese businesswoman Evangeline Shen.
The three are also involved in Exington. Now, the cousins are the controlling shareholders after buying over the company in July. They are not directors of Exington, but Ms. Shen is. She is also Exington's non-independent, non-executive chairman.
Well, the trio grabbed headlines around the world last week when they announced the BN Group's bid to buy Premier League club Newcastle United.
From doctored images to false business claims, there's certainly some controversy surrounding BN Group and its two Singaporean founders.
Well, sports correspondent David Lee has been covering this from the start and he joins us now. So David, there have been several discrepancies in BN Group's publicity materials. What are some that have been uncovered?
Right. So the highest profile discrepancy has been the Photoshop pictures I'm sure many have seen of the co-founders Terence Low, Nelson Low and Evangeline Shen that they took with former US President Barack Obama. BN Group Chief Marketing and Investor Relations Officer Narades de Bourbon admitted actually to Reuters that it had doctored those photos to make them look as if Obama had attended a meeting with the BN Group co-founders in Paris, when the pictures were actually taken at a charity event in Singapore last December. On its website, BN also stated that their new headquarters is in Paris, but there is no company called Bellagraph Nova Group registered in France. On their website, they mentioned they have 31 entities, US $12 billion in revenue and 23,000 employees. But when we asked about them, they could not or did not substantiate the revenue and employee figures. Other claims, one of their entities is supposedly the financial technology firm HydraX, which BN said is implementing a trading system for the Singapore Exchange. HydraX and the Singapore Exchange have both come out to deny these claims. On social media, they have been equally bullish. For example, they had an Instagram post claiming they have 10,000 private jets at their disposal, when a report in The Guardian last year mentioned there are only 4,700 private jets in operation around the world. When we clicked into their Door Group private jet chartering entity on the BN website, it was bare and had no booking information. All Narades would say is that clients can reach out to them through their partners or sales agents, but there was no further information. And speaking about their website, it became password protected on Tuesday. Several press releases issued by the group were also retracted on Tuesday as they sent out a note for journalists and readers to disregard these releases. In these releases, they had listed big companies such as Citibank, JP Morgan as partners, and they also name-dropped the King of Saudi Arabia, the King of Qatar, Queen Mother of Qatar as people who have expressed their interest in their investment opportunities and collaborations. In its publicity material, that there was one of the entity, NetX, listed former US ambassador to Singapore, Kurt Wagger, as one of their independent directors. But when contacted, he told us that he has actually resigned from his independent director position in Exington, which is also linked to the BN Group. So there are quite a few big claims here that don't seem to be backed up yet.
Right. David, you've followed and covered this story very closely. What was this process like for you in tracking this story?
So actually, this has been a true team effort, as we pool resources from the newsroom, be it from the news desk, the political desk, or the sports desk, online and photo desk as well. We mobilized our overseas colleagues to dig for more information. We have made breakthroughs with some newsmakers, ran into walls with others, but we will continue to track developments for this story.
Right. Well, At this point, there seems to be more questions than answered. Of course, there remains unanswered questions. What are some of them?
So on Tuesday night, the BN Group sent a statement to address the controversy and said the posting of the marketing material, which include matters in the pipeline but which had not been concluded, appears to be the result of the actions of certain errant individuals, possibly with malicious intent. So one big question is, who is behind all these marketing material and what is the intention behind some of these bold claims? That is what we strive to find out.
These all started after the company was thrust under the limelight when it put in a takeover bid for Newcastle United. And BN Group said that led to many media queries. From the initial announcement, the bid is in the late stage of negotiations. How will this impact it though?
Right. So a key aspect of such transactions is usually the dollars and cents. BN Group had submitted their letter of intent, proof of funds, which is all well and good. Narrators also claim that BN is in talks, direct contact with Cristiano Ronaldo and suggested a signing of his caliber, which is exciting, but again, unsubstantiated. Right. It is just that this reportedly £280 million bid is short of the £300 million bid, which a Saudi Arabian-backed consortium had put in previously before that bid collapsed. The Premier League has actually confirmed that takeover attempt collapsed because it insisted Saudi Arabia had to declare it would be in control of the club. So we can see there are strict regulations and declarations to adhere to in this process. The English Premier League has also a fit and proper person test for anybody who takes over a club, runs one, or owns over 30% of a club's shares. So if BN wants to take over Newcastle, like any other prospective buyer, they will have to satisfy all these criteria. It is said that Mike Ashley is keen to resurrect talks with the Saudis, so it appears that the BN Group bid may not be his first choice for now.
Right, well, that was David Lee, sports correspondent at the Straits Times. Now, he's written several articles about this ongoing saga, and you can keep up to date on this developing story over at straitstimes.com.
Good evening, I'm Dylan Ang with what's making headlines around the world. South Korea has ordered doctors in the Seoul area to return to work, even as they were due to stage a 3-day strike today. Doctors are protesting several government proposals, including the push to boost the number of doctors by 4,000 in the next 10 years to deal with health crises like the coronavirus. Student doctors, however, said the plan would unnecessarily flood an already competitive market, and that the extra funding would be better spent improving the salaries of existing trainees. Thailand has approved a 1-month extension of the state of emergency through to September 30th to control the COVID-19 outbreak. The nation is seeking to prolong its 3-month streak without a local transmission. More US colleges are grappling with high numbers of students testing positive for the coronavirus, just days into the start of the fall semester. For example, earlier this week, the University of Alabama reported that more than 550 people across its campuses had tested positive. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission will look into the allegations that 101 projects were allegedly awarded through direct negotiations during the Pakatan Harapan administration. This comes as political parties filed reports against former Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng on the matter. In a statement, the Commission said a thorough study will be made to determine whether there was corruption, misappropriation and abuse of power in this regard. Manchester United captain Harry Maguire was handed a suspended sentence of 21 months and 10 days by a Greek court. This after he was found guilty of multiple charges following a brawl on the island of Mykonos last Thursday, including repeated bodily harm, attempted bribery, violence against public employees and insult after his arrest. England coach Gareth Southgate has withdrawn Maguire from the England squad for September's Nations League matches against Iceland and Denmark. And Barcelona captain Lionel Messi has reportedly told the club that he wishes to leave immediately. The bombshell comes less than 2 weeks after their humiliating 8-2 Champions League defeat by Bayern Munich. Under the current terms of the contract, which expires next year, the only way Messi can leave without the club's consent is if a rival side pays his release clause of 700 million euros. And those are the headlines around the world. It's back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks so much, Dylan. Well, those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below.
Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. Join us tomorrow for more stories on A Big Story.